Okay, yes, I can see. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So do you know what is the major protein which is there in our RBCs, red blood cells?
Hemoglobin.
Hemoglobin.
Yes, hemoglobin. Okay, so here I'm citing one example of a disease or genetic disorder which is associated with you can say with RBCs or hemoglobin molecule. Okay, the name of the disease is sickle cell anemia. So what is going to happen in this disease? This is the like part of the gene sequence which is going to code for hemoglobin. This is not a complete sequence, this is part of that. And here you can see that CTC, which codes for glutamic acid in a normal human being. This is the sequence, this is part of the amino acid sequence of hemoglobin protein. At this position, you have glutamic acid because here this is the codon, genetic code is CTC. If we go back to that table, you will know that corresponding to this triplet, the amino acid should be glutamic acid. When this disease is there, sickle cell anemia, this disease is caused by a mutation in the DNA sequence. So instead of T, you have A here. So now your genetic code is changed. Initially, the genetic code was CTC, now you have CAC. So if you go back to that table, we will find that CAC will code for valine amino acid. Okay. So here you can see the difference. Under normal condition, in a normal human being, it is the glutamic acid which is present in the hemoglobin protein. But when the sickle cell anemia is there, due to the mutation, the amino acid is changed from glutamic acid to valine. And here this change is drastic actually. Okay, just because one letter is changed. See the this is the strength of the genetics. See the only one nucleotide is changed and what it is going to do. These two amino acids differ so much from each other. Glutamic acid, it is a polar amino acid. Valine, it is a hydrophobic amino acids. So now the interactions which are there, like when the protein is going to fold, the interactions are going to be totally different because of this amino acid. Initially here hydrophilic, here now you have hydrophobic. Okay, so because of that, the structure of the protein is going to change. And since hemoglobin is the major protein which is present in RBC, the structure of the RBC itself is going to change. And that's why the RBCs, which were initially they were round shape, now they become sickle shaped structure. They get a sickle shaped structure, which you are seeing here. Now, because of this change, the folding is changed, the structure of the protein is changed. Now the hemoglobin molecule cannot bind to oxygen, and that was the function of hemoglobin, that they bind to the oxygen molecules. Okay, so this is a very strong, or I will say like most famous example, which clearly depicts the idea that structure is very important for the function of the protein. If the structure is gone, the protein molecule is not going to be functional. Okay. Now let's enter into the course. Here, like you are seeing one of the great personality, great scientist, Grazer John Mendel, and he is considered father of genetics. Although he did not coin the term genetics, the genetics word was coined by this another great personality who was working in the same area, Dr. William Bateson. Okay, William Bateson, he was working with this another great personality which we are going to discuss hopefully today, Reginald Punnett. And you will be hearing this word, I think, in every lecture. Punnett Square. Okay, So William Bateson, he was a scientist who was also working in this area, and he coined this word genetics. And the idea behind the coining this word was because in the Greek language, it means to give birth. Okay, he so he described genetics. Basically, William Bateson described genetics is the study of inheritance and variation. What do you mean by inheritance and variation? Inheritance means transmission of characteristics from one generation to the next generation. That is heredity or inheritance. And what do you mean by variation? These are the two words which are used to define genetics. Variation means the difference between the parents and offspring. So offspring, definitely they are going to get certain characteristics from parents, but they are not exactly same to the parent. There are some differences. Okay, so differences between the parents and offspring, and secondly, the differences between the offsprings. Okay, both the offspring, or like how many offsprings are there, all the offsprings are not going to be same. So those differences are there. So genetics basically is the study of the inheritance as well as the variation. Now we are going to discuss, I have already discussed these points a little bit before, like regarding the history of genetics and what is the contribution of Grazer John Mendel. So Grazer John Mendel, he was a monk actually. He was the father in a church. So we actually he was not a scientist. Okay, and it was not his job actually to do the science, but it was his passion. So that he used to do the breeding experiments in the garden which was there next to the church in his like in which he was working. So what he did, he worked from 1856 to 1863. He did the breeding experiments on the plant for 8 years, and you can see the like how many plants he handled, 28,000. And what is the reason behind like using such large number? Because uh, he used to do the breeding experiments, then he used to keep the track of progeny number and their characteristics, and he was working on so many characters, so many traits or properties of the plants. So that's why this number is too large, 28,000. There are several unique things about Grazer John Mendel. Suppose nowadays we want to do some experiment, we need a sophisticated lab, first of all. But he was a scientist, like I will say that if you see the last statement here, he developed the principles of genetics without any scientific equipment. That was the just breeding experiments he used to do. So there was no equipment, and he was the first person who brought the concept of statistics or mathematics, I will say, in biology. He analyzed the data very carefully using the statistical methods which were there, and he was able to formulate the principles. Although the experiments were done in plants, the garden peas, but those are equally applicable to human inheritance. Unfortunately, when he was working, he was not famous. Nobody recognized him or his work, but later on, like at present, he's considered father, he's very famous, everybody is having respect for him. But during his lifetime, he was actually nothing. Nobody appreciated him, nobody recognized him that what actually this fellow is saying. And there are reasons for that. He got publication also. He did this work for 8 years, then he published also, and then he presented his work in a conference, National Science Society, in 1865 actually. But like I'm saying that he was unappreciated. Now the question is, who can appreciate your work? The answer is very simple. If somebody can understand you, that's it. Here I'm speaking like in context of genetics to you people. I'm explaining the protein structure, protein function, mutation, or blah blah, so many terms. If you can understand, you will appreciate. Yes, sir is putting so much effort. If you don't understand anything, then you will not appreciate. This is a simple rule. And same thing happened to Mendel. He was a very genius person, like, and the rule or principles of genetics which he formulated, nobody was able to understand. Reason was that time people were not knowing the chromosome. Chromosome, genes, DNA, mitosis, meiosis. At today also we can understand his principles because we know these things already. Now we know about DNA, we know about chromosome, we know about genes, traits, mitosis, meiosis, so we can understand. Imagine the situation if somebody erased these concepts from our memory, from our mind, then today also we cannot understand his rules. Okay, so he made a big impact in 1900 when like three other scientists, these are the three other scientists in 1900 who independently discovered and verified the principles which were generated by Mendel. And finally, his contribution was accepted, that what he was saying, actually those things were correct. So before we go to his actual experiments, let's understand the basic biology of the plant. So here you are seeing a flower of a pea plant. Interestingly, in the pea plant, both the reproductive organ, male gamete and female gametes, are there in the same plant. Okay, so here you are seeing this particular structure in yellow color. It is called anther. And anther consists of, you can see here, this grain particle, like dust like particles you are seeing, those are pollen grains. That those particles are pollen grains, and those are male gametes. Here you are seeing the second structure in the plant, which is called carpel. Carpel consists of stigma, and this is the stigma which consists of ovary. Okay, and that is the here female gamete. So male gamete and female gamete both are there in the pea plant. Now, how the genetic cross is conducted, how fertilization is conducted. So these three words are synonymous to each other. We can say genetic cross, cross pollination, or fertilization. What is going to happen in fertilization? Sperm and egg cell, they are going to fuse. Male gamete or female gamete, they are going to fuse together to make the zygote. Okay, so that is the first cell from where life is going to originate. So there are two types of fertilization which are possible in plants. One is self-fertilization. Self-fertilization means fusion of sperm and egg from the same plant. That is the self-fertilization. That is a natural process which can happen in the pea plant. Second one is cross-fertilization. Cross-fertilization means you are taking the male gamete from a plant, and you are using those male gametes, you are transferring those male gametes to a second plant. That is cross fertilization. Okay, and how, like, what Mendel actually used to do. So Mendel used to use this brush. That is the only instrument, I will say, tool which he used. No other sophisticated instrument. So he used brush to take the pollen grains from the anther of the plant which exhibit one form of a trait. Let's say tall plant, that is the trait. So he collected the anther, or he collected those dust particles which are male gamete, basically the pollen grains from a plant which exhibit one particular trait. Then he brushed those pollen grains onto the stigma of the second plant, Stigma means, if we go back to the previous slide, you can see stigma consists of ovary. So he used to take the pollen grains from one plant and used to transfer those pollen grains to the stigma of his second plant, which is totally different in context of that particular trait. That means here, if he using a tall plant, he collected the pollen grains from a tall plant, then he used to transfer those pollen grains to a second pea plant, which is short, which is small. But before that, what he used to do, the last statement is very important here, that the anthers of the second plant were first removed to prevent the self-fertilization. Otherwise, because this plant also consists of anther, it will be having pollen grains. So he used to remove those pollen grains. Otherwise, self-fertilization can also happen here. So there is no chance that self-fertilization is going to happen here. It is whatever progeny you are going to get from this genetic cross, that is going to be due to cross fertilization. Any doubt here so far in this procedure? Fertilization, genetic cross. Okay, if there is no other doubt, let's move. So now these are the three major steps which are there in Mendel's experiments. First one is selection of parents. What kind of parents he used to select? Something is special about those plants. The characteristic of that plant is they are pure lines. We will discuss what do you mean by pure line. Then he used to do the genetic cross between those parents to get the F1 generation. Then he used to do the selfing of F1. Selfing means self fertilization of F1 to get F2 generation. So three generations are there: parental generation, F1 generation, then F2 generation. Okay, so now we are going to understand what do you mean by pure line. Okay, before we discuss the pure line, we have to understand the meaning of these 10 terms. Then we can understand his experiments and his conclusions. Okay, let's go one by one. First term here is locus. Okay, you have to be very clear with these 10 terms, because most of the time we will be using these terms in, I think these terms are going to be used in each and every lecture, and especially numericals. If you know the meaning of these 10 terms, then you will be able to solve the even like most difficult problem in the like numerical problem, you will be able to solve. Let's go one by one. The first term here is genetic locus. Locus, gene, allele. I will have a white screen, then I will try to explain. Let me have the pen. So we have seen that this is the structure of chromosome. What kind of material? Uh, what kind of material is making the chromosome? Yesterday, like we have seen a couple of times. This is the chromosome. So what is this material which is making the chromosome? This is simple thing.
Protein.
No.
सर डीएनए होगा.
Yes, DNA. There was a slide where I have shown the cell. Cell consists of 46 chromosome. Then chromosome, it is made of DNA, and DNA consists of genes. Right? That was the idea. Chromosome is made of DNA, and DNA consists of gene. And gene is ultimately responsible for a like protein, and that protein is ultimately going to cause the particular trait. So the location on the chromosome where a particular gene, let's say gene which is responsible for height, okay, or let's say just simply gene X or gene A. Gene A is present at particularly this position on the chromosome, so it is called locus. Okay, locus means the position, physical position on a chromosome where a particular gene is present. And what do you mean by the term gene? Gene is the part of the DNA, the segment of the DNA which is going to code for a particular protein. Code for a particular protein. And ultimately, it is responsible for a trait. Okay. Now, the second concept here is we have defined these two terms, locus, gene. The third term here is allele. This is also very frequently used term in genetics, and I will be using this term in, I think, in almost every lecture. So basically, during the fusion or during the reproduction, what is going to happen that we get half of the chromosome from father and half of the chromosome from mother, right? So in that way, like I was saying, how many chromosomes are there in human being?
46, sir.
Sir, 46 in somatic cells and 23 in gametes.
Yes. Okay. So in somatic cells, sorry, in somatic cells, we have 46 chromosomes. Here in these 46 chromosomes, 23 chromosomes are from father and 23 chromosomes they are from the mother. I will have one more slide. Okay, so remember this thing, we are going to discuss the concept of allele, and here we are saying that 23 chromosomes we have from father and 26 from mother. I will erase this, I need more space. So these chromosomes are numbered actually. Okay, 1 to 23. Okay, so we have the pen. So basically, we can say we have 23 pairs. Let's say this is the first chromosome which we have from the father. This is number 1 chromosome. So similarly, we have the first chromosome from mother. At particularly this position or this locus, we have particular gene. Now, this gene which is there at particularly this locus, and here also if we go to this chromosome at the same locus, these two genes may differ from each other. Okay, it is not necessary that the DNA sequence or the gene sequence is exactly same. It is not necessary. So basically we can say that here at particularly this locus, in these two chromosomes, we may have two different versions of same gene. Gene is same, but two different versions because some differences are there. So maybe this gene, let's say, is for height. Maybe from father you are getting the copy which is responsible for tall, and from the mother you are getting the gene for height itself, but that it is going to be the for small height. So basically gene is same. The gene is responsible for height, but from father you are getting the gene for tall characteristic, tall trait, and from mother you are getting for small trait. So gene is same, but because some differences are there in the sequence of that gene, so you have basically two different versions of the same gene. And when this is the case, we say that these are alleles. Alleles are nothing but the two different versions of the same gene. So can you tell me, with respect to the alleles, what are the different possibilities here? What are the different possibilities? Did you understand what I'm saying for allele? How to define allele? What do you mean by the term allele? Any doubt? So here three possibilities are there. In case of alleles, there are three possibilities. Like here, or let's say, like first is that both the alleles are same. Or the second is that these alleles are different. Okay, so there are these two conditions, but here again one more case will be there which we are going to discuss. So these are the two possibilities, that alleles may be same or alleles may be different. So first of all, there is a specific term which is used here, these chromosomes, like the first chromosome from the father and the first chromosome from the mother. Okay, so this kind of pair, when we have, these are called homologous chromosomes. Homologous homologous chromosome. Okay, homologous chromosomes means the, let's say, first chromosome from the father and the same chromosome from the mother. This pair, of the chromosome is called homologous chromosome. Okay, now we are going to discuss those three possibilities, but before that we have to define other terms. Okay, and what are those terms? In context of allele itself, we are still discussing the concept of allele. Here there is a term which is called dominant and something called recessive. One condition is called homozygous and heterozygous. And other terms are genotype and phenotype. So what do you mean by the word phenotype? I think some of you have already explained the phenotype term. Phenotype is nothing but the, like, simple language is trait which you are seeing in a particular plant or in a particular individual. Can you give any example of phenotype? Phenotype is nothing but a trait. Can you give some examples?
Sir, color of eye.
Okay, color of eye. Anything else?
Height.
Height, color of eye. Okay.
और
Even your
बस
hair
हेयर
color?
का कलर तो सबका ब्लैक ही होता है.
No, it is not necessary.
हेयर कलर भी लगा लो.
Have you seen different colors in cat?
कैट हाँ सर होते हैं.
Right. So that means whatever, like, you are seeing, that is responsible due to the genes. If any small difference, curly hair, some people have curly hair, that is also because of genetic nature. Okay, so those are the examples of phenotype. Okay, so this term will be used very frequently in the course. Phenotype, we are basically telling you about the trait. What do you mean by the genotype? Genotype is always represented by two letters. Remember that. It's very important. Let's say capital T, capital T, capital T, small t, small t, small t, something like this. Here I am giving the example of, let's say, tall plant. In in context of height, I'm giving the example. So what is the meaning? So genotype, basically, it is a representation of genetic makeup, representation of genetic makeup of an individual for a particular trait. It's very important. What do you mean by the genotype? Genetic makeup of an individual for a particular trait, and it is represented by always two letters. Okay, here you are seeing that sometimes we are using capital letter, somewhere we are using one capital, one small, or sometimes we are using the two small letters, and there is a meaning for that. Capital T and small t are not same in genetics. Okay, and it's very important when you do the numericals. Often the answer I have seen that the answer of the student is wrong because he or she has considered capital T or small t same. What is the meaning? Let's see. So we have two chromosome, one from father, one from the mother, and this is the location where a particular gene which is responsible for height. Okay, so this is the chromosome from father, this is the chromosome from mother. At this particular position, we have the gene which is responsible for height, but the situation is from the father you have the gene which is responsible for tall height, and from the mother you have the let's say here also you got the gene for the tall height. So you will say that genotype of this person is capital T, capital T. Okay, so this is how the genotype is determined at particular this locus. If what is the allele, here also you have the gene which is responsible for tall. From the mother also you have the same gene or same allele basically. And this kind of situation, when the both the letters are same, this condition is called homozygous. Homozygous means both the alleles are same, okay, for a particular trait. That is the meaning of homozygous. The situation may be here that instead of capital T, the third possibility is that you have the allele from the father which is responsible for small height. Okay, so that is represented by here small t, and same allele you got from the mother, small height. So small one that is represented by small t. So here again small t, this genotype again it represents the homozygous condition. Okay, another case is that you may have instead of this situation we have the situation from the father you have capital T allele, from the mother you have small t allele. So now the situation is like this, your genotype is capital T, small t. Okay, so this particular condition is called heterozygous condition. Or condition may be reverse, that you are getting small t from father, capital T from mother. But remember one thing, in genotype always you have first letter is going to be the capital one, okay, and second one is going to be like either capital or small. This is how genotype is written. So technically you should not write like this, small t, capital T. First letter always should be capital one, capital, or in case when you have the condition small t, you cannot do anything, then you can go with the small t. Any doubt here in these terms? Genotype, phenotype, homozygous, heterozygous. Be very clear with these terms. Otherwise, like you will not be able to understand the numerical part. Genotype is represented by two letters. Basically, it reflects the genetic makeup of an individual for a particular trait. Phenotype, actual outcome, which is the trait which you can see. Homozygous means both the alleles are same. Heterozygous means the alleles are not same. Now, the another term which is here, it is the dominant and recessive. Okay, dominant and recessive. So dominant means, as the name suggests, a particular allele is going to be dominant to the second one. That is the idea. We know what do you mean by allele. Okay, so one particular allele is going to be dominant. I'm again going to the same idea here, like I'm showing you there are two chromosomes, one from father, one from mother, the same allele. Let's say here you have the allele which is responsible for tall height. From the mother, you have the allele which is for the small height. So now the genotype of this person for this particular trait is capital T, small t. And now if the person, let's say the person is tall, that means capital T is dominant over small t. That is the meaning. Okay. Dominant means it is going to win the race. The allele is going, one particular allele is going to win the race. So if I say that a particular person is tall, so what should be the genotype of that person? If a person is tall, what should be the genotype of that person?
कैपिटल टी सर कैपिटल टी होगा.
See, just now I described, when you are saying genotype, you have to use two letters. If you say capital T, that doesn't mean anything.
Sir,
That is just
TT.
Sir, capital T, or capital T, small t, or small t.
Right. Basically, these two are technically same. Right. Although, like here you have the capital T from father, small t from mother. Here small t from father or capital T from mother. So whenever these three genotypes are there, you can say the person is tall. That means homozygous condition, heterozygous condition. This is homozygous condition. Where you have capital T, that means it is a homozygous condition. Capital T, small t, it is a heterozygous condition. So tall genotype, it can be there in both the condition, homozygous also, heterozygous also. Now, what do you mean by the recessive? What do you mean by the recessive trait? Or recessive means the phenotype which is going to correspond to the second allele, which is not dominant. What is the trait here, which is corresponding to small t? Small height. Small height, it is the trait which is associated with the small t, but this small height is going to be visible only when you have the recessive condition. Means when both the alleles are like this, when the genotype is small t, in homozygous recessive condition, the phenotype will be visible. This is the homozygous recessive condition. When both the alleles are small, you can see here, both the alleles are recessive. This is called homozygous recessive condition. In that case, if a person is, the genotype of a person is small t, that means the person is going to be short, small height. Okay, so you see the difference here. If a person has to be tall, there are three different possibilities: capital T, capital T, small t, or small t, capital T. The person is going to be tall here. For a person to be small or short, the person has to have homozygous recessive condition. He has to, or she has to receive the allele which is responsible for the small height from both the parents. Okay, that is the meaning of recessive. Any doubt so far with respect to these terms? Dominant, recessive, homozygous, heterozygous, genotype, phenotype.
हेलो सर।
Yes.
सर कई बार होता है लाइक पेरेंट्स के आई कलर है जैसे कि दोनों का ब्लैक ब्लैक, बट जो उनका बेबी हुआ है सर उसकी ब्लू है, तो सर डोमिनेंट तो कैसे होगा सर इसमें?
Okay. Yes, you will see, or you will understand, well, like once we go through, like this is the concept which will come later. Okay, but yes, you will get the answer.
Okay sir.
Yes. We are going to discuss the similar questions what you are asking. Anything like with respect to these terms here? Okay, so we are done basically with the locus, gene, allele, dominant, recessive, homozygous, heterozygous, genotype, phenotype. Last one is character versus trait. There is a small difference between both the terms. Okay, so these things we have discussed. What do you mean by gene, allele? Okay, then dominant, recessive. So remember the concept that dominant is always represented by the capital letter. Here it is like red versus white color, right? And if red is dominant, that means we have to use capital R. Yes, so now we are going to discuss here the character versus trait. Character means the heritable feature, like such as flower color. Now the flower color may be red, maybe white, maybe purple. So that is the trait. Trait means a variant of a character. Although like several times we use these terms characteristic, character, or trait without knowing the difference, but actually this is the difference, that trait means a variant of a character. Let's say height is a character. Now that height may be tall or short, so those are traits. That means trait is a variant of character technically. Okay, we have discussed what do you mean by homozygous condition, heterozygous condition. Okay, then we have understood now what is the meaning of capital T, small t, or capital T, capital T. Okay, I will stop here, then we will start the Mendel's experiment in the next lecture.